Good morning everyone, it's Jeff with Grandpa's Pride Barbecue, and today we're doing something a little differently. We're going to be doing the poor man's brisket. We're going to be doing a chuck roast. A chuck roast is great, especially when you want some smoked meat, but you don't want 14 pounds of meat to have to vacuum seal or save. So stay tuned. All right, everybody, we're doing a chuck roast. Today I'm going to be using my drum smoker. It's actually technically a juice can from Jim Elser, Sweet Smoke Barbecue. I bought it, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. It's really good. There are a lot of advantages to it. It's small and compact, so it's a small footprint if you don't have a large area to put something in. It has a charcoal basket at the bottom. It has a draft control system over here that I'll show you in a minute. So basically I'll start up a small amount of charcoal. I will put the basket in there, put everything back in there, come over here, set the temperature that I want. It's got a fan to control it, and it'll just keep an even temperature. So that's how we're going to be cooking today. So first thing we need to do is get a basket of charcoal going. My favorite tool, the torch. So what I'm going to do is, what I've got in here is a little tumbleweed. It's a little fire starter. So I'm just going to get that going, which takes almost no time with the torch, the Benzomatic Lap Pro. Now all I have to do is just put some charcoal on top of it to get a little bit of charcoal going. I've got my wood chunks in there, and if it looks vaguely reminiscent to oak flooring, because that's exactly what it is, it's not sealed with anything, it's just straight up virgin oak wood. So I've got it, I'm going to use it. It's free. If it's free, it's for me. All right, now, this is the draft control system I was telling you about. When I turn it on, it'll have a temperature setting that I will put in there, and it'll control the little fan back here that will puff air to it as it needs it. So, going in. Okay, so you can see that's going to be getting the charcoal going. Now next is the heat diffuser, which is a homemade Grandpa's Pride special. It came with a ceramic tile, but it kept cracking, so I got something that wouldn't crack. That'll keep it so that it's indirect heat. And next goes the grate. Comes with 2 grates. And as soon as I get under the thermometer, and not stuck up on that one, there's one. And here's the actual cooking grate. And what I'll do as this gets hot is I will, of course, clean it, because a clean cooking surface is really important. So, all right. So we're going to get this going. We'll be inside and getting the meat ready here in just a little bit. Be right back. Okay, so here is Chuck the roast. And as you notice, it's a fairly thick piece of cow. And if you ask me from what part of the cow it originates, I will tell you the inside, because I have no clue. But it doesn't matter. It's fairly tough, which means it's probably closer to the hoof, the tougher the meat. But one of the things I want you to look at and see is all this beautiful marbling in here. That's fat. Fat is flavor. So I would be delicious if I were attacked by a pile of cannibals. So all I'm really going to do is not a lot of trimming. I'm going to take my knife, and this knife I got at I got a pack of 3 at Sam's, a boning knife, this, and a fillet knife, I think. Not very expensive. They don't hold an edge for very long, but when they're sharp, they're sharp. So every time before I use them, I just go ahead and run them through the sharpener real quick, sharp as a razor. On this, I'm not going to have to do a whole lot. There's not a lot of excess fat on this. I'm just going to trim off some of this stuff that maybe won't cook out very well. It's sort of sinewy. You know, chuck roast, a lot of us remember these from roast growing up, where Mom would make it with carrots and potatoes. So I'm not going to cut a lot out because, again, it's going to be the moisture when it's cooking. We don't want it drying out. There we go. I mean, honestly, I get a little of this kind of rough looking stuff. Just get that off. Again, a sharp knife, you stand less of a chance of cutting yourself than you do with a dull knife. So if you keep it sharp, you'll be probably in better shape. Now, something else I'm going to do with this before I start rubbing it down. Smoke will not penetrate meat. Period, end of subject. But what I am going to do to get some seasoning down in there is I'm going to crosshatch this incredibly large roast. By doing so, I'm exposing surface area, so more rub can get in there, smoke can penetrate down a little further. I'm getting more smoke flavor to the meat, and that's what I really want. Again, do you have to do this? No. Do I do it? Well, I am today. So, not all the way through, not going to the very bottom, just scoring more along the top, maybe half an inch or so down. And again, what this is going to do as it cooks, it's going to open up. Going to get more smoke down into these areas. My dog is staring at me. It's kind of creepy, not going to lie. All right, now I'm going to turn this over. As I mentioned, I use a binder. Today I'm just using Worcestershire sauce because Worcestershire and beef go together really, really, really well. Not a lot. Again, I just want enough to make sure that the rub adheres. Not going super crazy. My basic brisket beef rub is salt, kosher salt, seasoned salt, black pepper. I've got in there some garlic powder, and I've got some chili powder that's homemade because, well, why wouldn't you? All right. More flavor in the homemade chili powder. I'll talk about that a little bit here in a minute. Okay. So all I'm trying to do is just make sure I get a copious amount of rub. It's a big piece of meat. It can take a lot of salt. It's nice. It's thick. It's going to be good. Now, I'm sure there are people out there that are probably screaming, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. It's my channel. I'll do it my way I want. Again, it's all about the basics. It's about for people who are new to this. If you're a pro, you're probably not watching this anyway. Maybe you are. Supporting dear old Jeffy boy. So I'm just getting that down in there. Now I'm going to just hit it with a rub. Opening it up as I do it. Because again, as this cooks, it's going to want to spread apart a bit more because of the way the pressure and the heat's going to be on the muscle fibers. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting as much flavor into this thing as I can. I don't want to overpower the flavor. It's beef. It should taste like beef. I'm just trying to enhance it and get some cubes because I got plans for this. That's not necessarily just straight up reading like you see here. So there, boom, done. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this rest a little bit, let the seasoning kind of get sticky, get a little bit of a tacky surface to it, and then we're going to get it out on the smoker and we're going to see how we do with it. So stand by. Okay, so as I mentioned, I make my own homemade chili powder. Could I buy it cheap? Well, cheaper not necessarily, but could I buy it and be more convenient? Yes, I could. Would it taste as good? No, it wouldn't. So I make my own chili powder. You can find most of the dried chilies that you need in most large grocery stores, Publix. But if nothing else, you can always go to a La Tienda, like a Hispanic grocery store. They have all kinds of dried chilies in there and seasonings, and they're really good. So that's an idea for you. But this is my dried chili powder. Smells really good. I don't know if you can see that. Now, there are a lot of different recipes out there for making your own homemade dried. That's my dog. Anybody want a dog? As I was saying before, so rudely interrupted by my partially psychotic dog, I make my own dried chili powder. Again, a recipe I use, Alton Brown does one. It's a really good, it's an old episode that he did many, many years ago. I think one of his first couple seasons. But between that and a coffee grinder that I use to grind up spices anyway, and a blender that my wife's probably going to kill me for ruining because now it's stained orange. Sorry. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little more flavor to it. I'm going to take it, not quite as dramatic as when they're panning for gold, but nonetheless. I'm going to take this, and when I put the chuck roast on the smoker, I'm going to put this out there too to get a little smoke to it. Not a whole lot. You can really smell the roasted cumin that I used. It smells really good. It's really fresh smelling. Smell the chilies. So again, super simple recipe. And you say, well, the chilies cost this, the chilies cost that, but you can get a large batch. That's just a double batch there, and I already used some in the chuck roast as I mentioned. So you know, dollar for dollar, it's probably a better value. Flavor for flavor, it is definitely a better value. So I highly recommend that you try making it. Go to the World Wide Web, find all kinds of recipes for it, and good luck with it. Just play with it. Again, this is not rocket science. Recipes are an idea. It's a rough scale. Get in there and make it your own and enjoy it. All right, let's go check on the smoker and see how it's doing. Okay, so we're outside, and I've got Chuck the roast on. So, and I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to be smoking my chili powder a little bit here. So let me get this closed up. Okay, a couple changes I wanted to talk about. So when I got this, it didn't have this little caddy at the bottom. This is like your garbage can roller around thingy that you see at schools. There's the fan that you see, and there's the internal temperature probe. So that's all tied to this unit, which maintains the temperature. You can hear the fan blowing every once in a while. The other thing that I added to it was this hinge, and hope the people forgive me, but I forgot the name of the company that made the hinge. But it works really great. As you open it, it slides and locks, so you don't have to worry about putting it on the ground, getting dirt and stuff in it. I believe it also works on a kettle drum, just a plain old Weber kettle. The beauty of a drum smoker is if I want more height, I can take this lid off by just pulling this pin, and I can put my lid from my Weber kettle on top. So for instance, if you look on the side here, I've got a couple holes that I drilled through the body of this, and I've got some rebar. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll take that rebar and I'll hang it in there, and I'll put the meat on some hooks, and I'll have it hanging over the coals directly. So it gives a little bit of a different flavor. Pretty versatile. Like I said, they're sometimes called ugly drum smokers, UDS. A lot of people make them. There's tons of videos on YouTube on how to make them. This one, again, I bought pre-made. I just had to, of course, season it. And I mentioned replacing the tile that came with it. It just cracked over time. So I went ahead and had a metal plate that I fabricated myself. And by fabricating, I mean I cut the corners off, not like I'm some sort of welder. And just ordered the kit for the roller. Again, it's really a great little unit if you want to have the convenience of a pellet smoker, but with the flavor that's a bit deeper. As I said, with a pellet smoker, you're not going to get a lot of smoke flavor. You'll get some, but not as much as you will with this. I had the lid open so the charcoal fired up. It's a little dirty right now, but it'll clean up. Again, you live in an apartment, you've got a small area, you don't want a huge footprint, you've got something you want to cook, you don't want to have to sit there and tend it every 30, 45 minutes. I use this a lot on briskets. I'll put them on at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, go to bed. Set and forget. Sorry, Ron Popeil, I stole your quote. But it's really good. Turns out a lot of really good brisket. Turns out a lot of really good everything that it cooks. This fire will clean up. We'll get a nice clean burn and some good flavor. So we've just put it on. I'm not going to mess with it for about another hour and a half, 2 hours. One thing I forgot to mention is sticking in the meat probe. Again, I recommend a really good meat probe for when you're cooking. So what I've done is where I use my rebar over here as well. I'll open the smoker, get it to lock, run it through this hole right here, stick it in the thick part to the middle. Come down to my unit. Really recommend these, they're great. to the iGrill. You can pick them up 1 slot or 4. Stick it in. It sees it, and it'll connect to my smartphone, so I can sit inside and monitor the temperature while enjoying a nice cool beverage. So, all right, we'll check on this again in a couple hours. We'll see y'all in a bit. Hey there everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Weber iGrill 2 as our top tech tip of the day. These are really good. You've heard me mention having a good thermometer. It's good for monitoring what you're cooking so you don't overcook, shoot over a temperature or something along those lines. This one has 4 ports. This is the iGrill 2. Ran about $95. And you can get the iGrill 1, which is very small and it only has 1 port. I think I paid $30 for that. They each come with probes. This one came with 4 probes. The iGrill 1 has 1 probe. You can also purchase a pit temperature thermometer for it. So they plug into this so you can monitor the internal temperature of your pit as well as the meat that you're cooking. Again, you can do up to 4 meats or 4 temperature probes at a time on this one. And it just cycles through. It connects via Bluetooth. So Bluetooth, you know, good and bads with that. The range isn't that great. If you got a lot of walls you're going through or a long distance, it's not going to work very well. But if you're relatively close, you'll be fine with it. These probes, pretty accurate. One thing I recommend though is when it comes time to clean the probe, don't submerge it in the sink underwater. Water gets in this probe, it'll never work right again. It will be just goofy as all get out. So when it's time to clean it, if you're done using it, you got these silicone tips, they're all different colors. Grab it by that, pull it out, take a damp soapy rag and just scrub the tip, rinse it off a little bit, let it dry, and you're good to go. So again, you want to keep it out of water. Don't run it through your dishwasher. So that would be bad in all kinds of ways. So again, all kinds of things on the market for remote temperature monitoring. Experiment with them a little bit. Like I said again, Weber iGrill 2 is one I use. There are a veritable plethora of different wireless. Some are Wi-Fi. This is Bluetooth. Some, you know, there's all kinds of things coming out there for that, so just have fun with it. So anyway, so that's today's top tech tip for the day. Thanks. All right, let's check on her. See how she's doing. Yeah, looking nice, looking nice. Showing about 153 with that. Now normally, I would take some butcher paper and wrap it at this point, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it keep going as it is, because again, I'm not really interested in taking this to 205. I'm going to get this up around 180, 175, 180, because as I said, I got plans for it. Thanks. Okay, so I've taken off Chuck the roast. Still funny to me. Anyway, I only let it get to about 160. Now normally I'd take it up at around 203, 205. I would have wrapped it. However, I've got special plans for this chuck roast that involves a secret. So I'm going to go ahead and slice it up, give it a little tasty taste, and see how we turned out with it anyway. It's been resting. You should always let your meat rest. Don't insert jokes here, okay? Because as it's heating, it's pushing out all the flavors and juices. So what you do is you let it come in, you let it rest, it relaxes. So when you cut it, juice doesn't just go everywhere. It stays within the meat itself. So, I mean, it doesn't need to rest a really long time, and I really wish you guys could smell this thing. It smells incredible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chunk this up into very small pieces, and then we'll have a taste and see what we come up with. We'll cut some really thin slices, going against the hash marks. My dog is jumping up begging. Riley, it's a wonder he's a live dog. Some days more than others. So it's cutting really well. Smells really, really, really good. You smell that oak smoke. Even smell the Worcestershire, which kind of surprises me a little bit actually. But what I smell mostly is just good cooked beef. My dog is jumping. Oh darn, the piece fell. All right, so I'm going to just take this piece. I don't expect it to be as tender as I want because, again, I'm going to cook it later in a braise. See how it is here. Wow. Getting the salt from the rub, that chili powder, the smoke. It's not overpowering, it's just a nice back accent flavor. Tender, it's really good. Almost tastes like a grilled steak to some degree. So I think this is a success. And you can see where keeping that fat in there really kept the moisture. So it's still really juicy on the inside, didn't dry out, and it's not falling apart in a million pieces. So that's a good day. So with that being said, whenever you're wanting the taste of beef, but you don't want to cook a whole lot of meat, get yourself a chuck roast, prep it, smoke it, let it rest, and then enjoy. You can eat it on a bun, you can eat it by itself over sauce, however you want to do it. But as it is right now, it's just fine to me. So see y'all next time. Y'all take a little piece. Riley says hello. Oh yeah, remember, be nice to people. It doesn't cost anything. Take care.